Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we are talking about the Path of the Fractured Barbarian.
Yes.
This is from the Grim Hollow campaign setting, the original, but they have a new Kickstarter going now, the Valikan Clans, which is a Viking-themed Kickstarter, so make sure you check that out. We'll have a link.
It has my attention. He said Vikings things. So
right, Vikings. I mean, Grim Hollow plus Vikings, I mean, it's automatically a win. Yes. Anyways, if you're new to the channel or the series, what we're going to do is go through all the abilities gained in the subclass. We're going to rate the roleplay, combat, and synergy based on how the abilities gained improve the base class.
Yep.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in our D&D Beyond Sourcebook Bundle giveaway. All that being said, let's get right into it.
Starting off with level 3, we have Face of Rage. When you enter your rage, your features distort and your body swells such that your appearance completely changes. Creatures who don't witness your transformation and have not witnessed it in the past do not recognize you. In addition, while raging, you gain the following benefits if you aren't wearing heavy armor, which you're a barbarian.
Anyway.
Why the fart are you? You can roll a 1d8 in place of normal damage for your unarmed strike, and your unarmed strikes count as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. When you use the attack action with an unarmed strike and are not wielding a shield, you can make one unarmed strike as a bonus action. You count as one size larger when determining who you can target and who can target you with grappling, and your reach with unarmed strikes increases to 10 feet. So you're punching and kicking them from a long way away.
Yes. And I will mention, too, that transformation could have some RP implications, which we'll get to later.
Oh, does it?
Level 3 also, we get the Mask of Civility. You gain proficiency with one of the following skills of your choice: Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Nature, Persuasion, or Religion. In addition, you gain proficiency with one Artisan's Toolkit of your choice, or learn to read, speak, and write one language of your choice. Again, we're going to be upset about some extra RP options.
I so love the name of that ability. Mask of Civility is like, when you really want to be, you can be useful in society. You just really don't want to be because you're a barbarian.
It's kind of like this little theme of like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing going on.
I mean, I don't think it's little theme. I think I'm not saying they did that intentionally, but it very much feels that way. They may have done it intentionally. I don't know. Next up is one of my two most favorite sentences I've ever seen for a barbarian. Brains and Brawn. At 6th level, while you are not raging, you have resistance to psychic damage. While you are raging, you have resistance to all damage except psychic damage. Period. End of sentence.
I gotta say, I love that. Like, it's just it's so simple.
Again, it's like
so
you said, the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I don't know why that's difficult to say. It feels, again, just when you're in the doctor form, you're like, I understand things. I mess with my head. You know, I know how things work. I understand society. Then you make him mildly agitated, and then he just starts breaking everything.
Yeah. Checks out.
Yeah.
Level 10, we get Cunning and Brutal. While you are not raging, you can take a bonus action on each of your turns to take the Disengage or Help action. While you are raging, your unarmed strikes score a critical hit on a roll of 19 or 20. So again, this theme of while you're raging, you get this. While you're not raging, you get that.
Yes.
Very interesting concept to play on that we've really not seen before.
Agreed.
With barbarians.
Mm-hmm. Finally, our capstone at level 14 is Better Half. When you take damage that would reduce you to 0 hit points, you can use your reaction to drop to 1 hit point instead and gain temp HP equal to half your maximum hit points. In addition, if you were raging, your rage ends, and if you weren't raging, you enter rage, even if you have no remaining uses of your rage. You lose all remaining temporary hit points after 1 minute, and you use this feature once per long rest.
Yeah, so just a great get up into combat kind of deal.
Yes.
On there, I mean, if you also went with like a half orc, then you could like allow that to trigger first.
Yeah.
And then when you go down again, so you're just like really up there, kind of competitive and defensive option with like your totem barbarians with the all damage except psychic, and also the zealot barbarians with just not dying.
Yeah.
So at least once.
Yes.
a day.
This is not a complicated subclass, but dang it feels very barbarian.
It's very efficient with what it does. That being said, those are all the abilities gained in the subclass, so now we'll move on into the rating portion. First up is the roleplay asterisk, as always. Talking about roleplay, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order. Not talking about your class fantasy history, lore background, that's on you as a player. We can't rate you, but we can rate the abilities gained in the subclass, how they might improve your potential in those roleplay scenarios.
That's correct.
So, all that being said, There isn't a ton going on with the role play. I mean, you do get your rage, as I mentioned earlier, changing your appearance, which could come into play, but especially at early levels, you're very limited with those and the time period for which you have it. I mean, if you're not hitting things or taking damage early on at level 3 and, for a while on there, it's going to come up with that. So how much would really make a difference in RP? Not a whole lot. But then you also get a bonus proficiency or language in the Artisan's tools. So you get a little bit of RP, but the rest of it really focuses on combat, which is pretty common with barbarians in general. That's kind of their thing is smashing stuff. So.
Is there anything, like any base class that just screams combat more than barbarian? No.
Not particularly.
No.
From a mechanical standpoint, I will mention.
I mean, or even just a flavor standpoint.
I mean, there's some flavor with, being a wild man, big old crazy person.
You go smash.
Yeah. So, that being said, we went with a 2 on the RP. So, just a few little options, but it's not really focused on the roleplay side of things.
It's primarily one ability that gives you, proficiency, language and that kind of thing, and then everything else go smash stuff. Speaking of go smash stuff, on the combat side of things, we get to, essentially pretty quickly we can forego weapons and just start punching and kicking things. So if you ever wanted to play a rage monk, hey... Yeah, this is what you get to do here. And I do love that it immediately lets you overcome magical resistance to, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage, all that kind of stuff, which is great. So there's no, waiting on doing what your subclass is designed to do. You can do it immediately.
Yeah.
You can make a bonus attack, without shields. As long as you're not holding anything in your hands, it's punch, which is great. And you are bigger, so if you really wanted to kind of go into this punchy kicky / grappler thing, you could, because you can grapple things, larger because you are a size larger. So heaven forbid you're already a large race, which there's a couple of those.
Well, they count as for carrying capacity, but they're technically medium. Furbolgs, Goliaths, they're they count as bigger for certain things, but they're technically medium.
Like gigantic build or other things called it bigger. So it's either way, you can grapple stuff much bigger than everybody else can. Being the point, of course, from 6 on is where things get really wonderful in combat. Is because you're getting resistance to all damage except psychic when you're raging. And if for some reason you're not raging in combat, or right when combat starts, you have this psychic damage. So in case some caster tries to just throw something at you,
Mind Flare.
Yeah, to start combat, you would have a little bit of help there on the back end. The cunning and brutal, the fact that you can disengage as a bonus action is really neat when you're not raging.
Gives you another reason why not to rage,
right?
If you want extra mobility,
correct. If you really needed to get away from this one thing to go over here and help the other, smash this, you could, or the help action at that. So early on you would have to if you want to rage, you could. I think you're raging most of the time, but if you had a reason really to not to,
maybe you have a certain party composition where giving someone help every turn as a bonus action could be more impactful for the party than you just raging.
This is true.
Or, if things get sketchy, you go rage and then, kind of take over a role like a paladin or something.
Right. Of course, while you are raging, you've doubled your critical hit chance for your punchy kickies, which is a 19 or a 20 on your D20.
Once you eventually get onto your brutal critical.
Yes. So that's going to feel... Because... Would you like to see punches and kicks hurt a lot? Which, if you look at the artwork, which I love, they've got some great artwork in this. You got the one hand that just grows really large. Oh, it makes sense. If that thing hits me, it's going to hurt real bad. Just get my chest caved in. So yeah, that makes sense. That's crit's going to hurt a lot. And of course, the capstone, you get the ability to stay up if you go down, which you're a barbarian, which I don't love. But at least in this case, you don't just go down and come back up to 1. You get half your health back and 10 HP.
A lot of health.
So
it's your barbarian.
You're essentially gonna have double what everybody else's health pools are normally. This you're gonna be way over double theirs with that temp HP kick. So that's fantastic. And I like the interesting add-on as if you weren't raging when you got knocked down, you're really mad now. And if you weren't, you aren't. So there's an interesting kind of ebb and flow, yin and yang kind of thing to this. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde concept of this. But so there's a lot of interesting and maybe interesting ways you could play this, taking more of the abilities that maybe you weren't raging, but when you need to, you can just go like an absolute monster. So all that, you'd be 4.5 out of a possible 5. And I think the only thing really hampering this at all is some of the stuff you do get is while you're not raging, which seems like you should be raging most of the time because you're a barbarian. And then of course that your barbarian, that capstone is probably not going to hit often.
Yeah.
It may never hit, but if it does, it's going to feel really, really nice.
Yeah, and kind of keeping in that same vein of thought, switching over to synergy, this falls more on a tanky side of things, where you can kind of switch from heavy-duty tank to mobile supporter, because you can kind of, have that bonus action help. Could be a big deal for sure. Again, if you have like paladins that can crit smite from confirm,
Rogues.
or rogues that they just want to get advantage on stuff and they're not able to, or whatever. There's certain things that they want to increase their chance to crit their sneak attacks. I mean, sure, whatever. There's a little bit of chance with that, because they might, if you're next to them to do that, then Anyways, you know how sneak attack works. We're talking about barbarians today.
Yeah, right.
So you do get that option to kind of flip the switch and have a comparable damage, reduction to like a totem barbarian, which is considered when you take bear totem to be one of the best tanks for barbarians because they have resistance to like everything.
Yep.
So everything but psychic is in effect pretty much everything, because psychic isn't all that common anyways.
It's not. If you're not fighting mind flayers and stuff of that ilk, psychic damage is real hard to come by.
And that's one thing that's interesting too on the defensive side, is if you're fighting something that does do psychic damage, it's probably not going to be doing a whole lot of BPS damage. So if you are fighting something that specializes in that, then you don't have to rage, and it might actually save you more health than if you were raging. So
if for some reason you open combat as like going fourth, and one of the enemies goes first, and he's like, psychic damage is like, oh, how about that? I think I'm not gonna get happy about that. I think I'm gonna be happy about that.
Yes. So it's some great bonuses to your rage, and that kind of dynamic of playing with and not playing with your rage, especially early on, is a big deal, because you have very limited uses, and you don't have your persistent rage or relentless rage or any of that stuff to help it, continue on.
Yep.
So that gives you something to do when you don't have your rages up, which can sometimes come into play, especially, at lower levels, as I mentioned. So great options, extra utility, never going to be upset about. Went with a 4.5 on the synergy as well. It really synergizes with, the strengths, with rage, and giving you some great defensive options, but also giving you some extra utility that you otherwise wouldn't have as a barbarian.
Barbarian doesn't have much besides honorable movement, that you get around the battlefield better.
Right.
Not much else combat utility besides just get mad smash.
Right. But yeah, that's going to be it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you know when all of our new videos are coming out. Make sure to check out the Grim Hollow Valikan Clans Kickstarter.
Vikings.
Down below. Oh, yes. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Explore the Grim Hollow setting like never before with a deep dive into Valikan. All new martial maneuver rules, brand new rating mechanics to tackle large-scale combats, 2 new transformations, new subclasses, and feats. The Saga of Seasons adventure lasts an entire year in-game. Players tackle the unique challenges that arise in each of the 4 seasons. Experience the life of a Valikan Raider as you grow your clan's power and prestige. And don't miss out on a whole swath of cool merch, including metallic dice, massive minis, and more. This is a Kickstarter you don't want to miss, so back it today.